truck we were looking at was going to be a Ford F350 crew cab short bed. Popular truck. You see tons of them out there pulling RVs. We were going with the Ford. We've had them in the past. I like them. And it's just as simple as that. The comfort and the overall looks. That being said, researched. And the deeper I got into the research, I started realizing that many people with these trucks, whether they realize it or not, are overweight. I realized they have plenty of power, and most any of these trucks are capable of pulling what you're pulling with them. But on a legal standpoint and I guess a safety standpoint, you know, what's the sticker on the door says if you do all the measurements and you take the weights, you're probably pulling over your payload and you're pulling overweight. We just didn't want to go down that road. So we started looking at dualies. And then it came to, obviously we were looking at F350 dualies. We were thinking of safety and how much nicer they would pull, maybe without as much sway. But we're new to all this, so we didn't know. So then I started researching why so many people are going with F450s over the 350s. Because essentially they're the same truck. They have the same weight capacities. Honestly, when you really get down to it, payload-wise, the 450 is not able to accommodate as much weight as a 350 because of the weight of the truck being more. So because of the weight of the 450 being a little more, you're losing a little bit of payload over the 350. So we went from originally wanting the short bed, 1 ton, to deciding, okay, the dually might be a better choice. Just a more comfortable pulling experience, I guess you will. So now we had our mind set on a dually. So once we knew it was going to be a dually, then I started looking into why so many people were wanting the F450s. And the 450 just makes sense to me. The 450, a couple key differences, and a lot of people watching this have probably already looked into it, but the wide track front end and the steering capabilities are crazy. When I first test drove one and pulled a U-turn, like right in the parking lot of the dealership, it was amazing. I don't think the F150, the 2020 F150 that I had, could steer that tight, quite honestly. And we're talking about a long bed dually here. So the steering was amazing. You get the bigger brake rotors, so better braking, essentially. Honestly, I flat out like the looks better. I like the wider fender flares, and I like the bigger 19.5 wheels than what the 17s that come on the 350. In that 19.5 wheel, it is a commercial grade tire. So then that brings us to reviews people were saying. A lot of people loved them, and a lot of people were saying how rough they rode. And I take a lot of these reviews with a grain of salt. I'm a realist, and I know it's a lot about perspective. I don't know what they were driving in the past. If you're driving a GMC Denali or, you know, an F150, you know, Platinum or Limited with some plush suspension, yeah, the 450 is definitely going to feel rough. Kimmy and I both come from a background. We've always had cars with sport suspension, or we've had, you know, Jeep Wranglers or 4Runners or this or that. That's, to me, ride rough, but we've always just accepted it, and we just know what they are. So when we first test drove the 450, it was like, man, I don't know what people are talking about. This thing don't ride rough at all. This is a dream. Did it ride as good as my 2020 F-150? No, it didn't. But it's a little more harsh in areas. But for the most part, it was great. I would have to say it rides better than our Subaru WRX because it's a sporty little sedan with, you know, stiff suspension. So it's a great riding truck. So at this point in the journey, we then made the decision. It's going to be the F450. And then it was time to search for one because they're not easy to find. They're expensive. And there's not a ton of them out there, at least at the point that we were looking. So we found our truck. Our house sold. We went the day our house sold or closed on it, and we picked up the truck. It was a great feeling driving that thing home. It is a 2022 F450 Platinum, and God, what a beautiful truck! It rides great, pulls the camper great. It's just incredible. Again, I don't feel the roughness that some people do. I will tell you this, on some major highways where there's probably a lot of tractor trailer traffic and, you know, the roads can get a little rough, over 70, maybe 75, it gets a small bouncy vibration in it that I think would be normal. It could be those commercial tires. It could be what some people are complaining about in the 450. At some point, I do plan on trying to put some Centromatic wheel balancers on it. From all the research I was doing, I was planning on doing it right from the get-go, as soon as we brought the truck home for the most part. But after driving it and after pulling with it, I didn't feel what a lot of people were talking about, so I didn't rush to it. So now I'm still just debating whether I'm still going to do it because it just rides so nice to me. Maybe as the tires get cupped up a little bit, as they do on these commercial tires, it may get worse. I don't know, and I may try to eliminate that by putting the Centromatics on it. But that's a decision I'm trying to make right now. Any feedback from you guys, I'd love to hear it and see if that helped your situation.